replay this broadcast. If you're checking us out on Spotify, what's up and welcome to Fly Nubian Money. I am your host today, one of your co-hosts, I should say, Dr. Lene Javette. Today we are talking about a clip that is making its way around the internet where Michelle Obama is making this powerful pledge and ask to women voters. She is recently going in the news because she is warning about low voter turnout and or protest votes that could make women's lives collateral damage in the upcoming election. There is a clip that has a header that also says that she is asking women to vote differently than their husbands. And the question is being asked, is that divisive? Is it divisive to say that? Now, we're going to watch the video because we don't necessarily believe that that's what she said, but our conversation and topic is really going to be about unity of the family. Should women vote differently from their husband? Things of that nature, etc. So this is going to be good if you're tuning into this. This is going to be good. So I'm not here by myself. We have other amazing and beautiful queens here on the broadcast today. We're gonna start with my left because this is how I see the screen. We'll start with Constance.
You gotta go. You gotta go the other way. There I am. No, go that way. No, go that way. Yes.
Okay, we'll start with Alicia. Dr. Alicia, we should say. Dr. Alicia Watkins is a social worker and psychotherapist. We have Constance Carter. She is a wealth activist. We have Athena, the goddess with the fur in the building today. She is a CPA and wealth coach. We have Moya, who is a tax professional, and we are going to get into a conversation. You can already don't put your information in the chat yet because we want you to see the clip before we get into asking you what you think. So let's go ahead and roll the clip, and then we're going to get into our conversation.
Before you cast your votes, ask yourselves, what side of history do you want to be on? That there are a lot of angry, disillusioned people out there upset with the slow pace of change. And I get it. It is reasonable to be frustrated. We all know we have a lot more work to do in this country. But to anyone out there thinking about sitting out this election or voting for Donald Trump or a third-party candidate in protest because you're fed up, let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. So, are you as men prepared to look into the eyes of the women and children you love and tell them that you supported this assault on our safety? And to the women listening, we have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us.
Okay. So we watched the clip. And again, nowhere in that clip did she say for women to vote separate from their spouse, their husband. So that was not said in that clip. However, it is a good conversation to have. Should women vote differently from their husband? So let's start with just the clip itself and what she said around collateral damage. What's your take on Michelle Obama's warning about just the collateral damage piece of it itself? Constance, we'll start with you.
I mean, I just think that she was addressing real issues where you have people, voting based upon what their household, just because of the rhetoric that has been in the propaganda that we're seeing all over the media. And she's just saying, look, because as we've seen over time, support for Trump has increased, which is strange. It's absolutely strange, especially amongst a certain demographic. So she's saying, look, it sounds like, I guess it's changed because people are voting with what their family if their husbands are these so-called blue-blooded Americans who believe in whatever they believe in, which is this Trumpism, they're influencing their entire family. She's saying, look, you don't have to do this. And furthermore, if you do and he wins, this is going to affect you even more. So you don't got to do what everybody else is doing. So I get what she's saying. I don't think it's desperation at all, as we're saying on the subject. But I just think she's just speaking to to. I think it's actually obvious. She's speaking to the obvious.
I like that. So now in the chat, please dial in, tap in. What do you think? Do you think that women should vote differently from their husbands? Is it divisive? Let me know over in the chat. Dr. Alicia, I know you feel strongly about two things. One, the idea that the media and or the verbiage over the clip is not accurate with regards to what she said, but also what do you think and or how do you feel about the collateral damage, women being collateral damage in this election?
Well, I mean, you don't even have to listen to what Michelle Obama has to say. You can just listen to what Donald Trump's own words, what he is saying. Like, I encourage everybody to turn off the social commentators. Don't even listen to them. Go straight to what people are saying. Go straight to the issues. It's all public information. The Republican candidate, he's put out a list of things that he is against and for. So has the Democratic candidate. Like, both of them have made it very clear. Get off of how words can be twisted around and information can be, diluted. Go straight to information. Like, listen, if you listen to a speech by Donald Trump without people telling you how to interpret it, draw your conclusion. If you listen to a speech by Michelle Obama or Kamala Harris, just listen to those words, draw your own conclusions, because we are all smart enough to come up with our own conclusion. And I think that if we have really good listening skills, we would hear that Michelle Obama has empathy. She was demonstrating empathy. She said, I understand that your frustration. You're frustrated. Yes, it makes sense. She said, I get it. She's activating and a listening skill to say, don't let your rage keep it all into perspective. So that's what I would encourage everybody to do.
I love what you said, though, Dr. Alicia, when you said, listen to Trump, not what people are interpreting him to say, because it always we always hear people having to clean up. Well, what he really meant is this.
Or he said that because of this. No,
right. Listen to him. I love that.
All right, Athena, is it fair to say that your vote could cause collateral damage to your loved ones?
I mean, I think it's fair for her to give her opinion. And obviously, I don't have to go through the laundry list of things that Trump and his campaign has said that have negative impacts, especially on women, because I feel like she was directly talking to women in what she was saying. There are certain things that camp supports that can negatively impact the lives of women. Whether or not you're going to vote for them or not is a whole nother decision. Obviously, there's multiple issues that people have to pick on what they're voting. I do think that she was using that as an opportunity to remind women that they do not have to vote in accordance to what their husband necessarily chooses, because a lot of women do feel pressure to vote in line with their husband, spouse, or whatever. That's just something that does happen. Now, for me, I'll vote however I want to vote, so, I don't have this issue. And actually, I've been talking to some gentlemen about this, and I know how they're choosing to vote is different from how I'm choosing to vote. But we had this discussion, like, I'm not emotionally invested in politics in that way, and neither is he. So it's not an issue. And I encourage people to not make this an issue in their household. Everyone has their civil right to express. What it comes down to with me and that ballot is what me and that ballot need to discuss, and then we can go home and be happy afterwards.
I like that. You don't have to share everything. I mean, I guess you do. We're gonna get to that part of the question in a second. Moya, I'm gonna let you weigh in on this. What's your take on Michelle Obama's warning about collateral damage? Is this a wake-up call for women, or does it seem like a fear-based approach to secure votes?
It definitely doesn't feel like a fear-based approach. It feels like it's something that we need to discuss just because it's on women's minds. One of the things I think we have to also keep in mind is that they're in the household with the men. So they're listening to the same rhetoric and the commentary that's going on in the household. The TV's on, this is what they're playing. So if she feels different, then she needs to act different and feel comfortable with that decision. But I can also see how she can also feel very uncomfortable with making a different decision, because it's counter to what this man, who's the quote unquote head of the household, may be feeling.
All right, here we go. We'll start with Dr. Leisha on this one. Here it is. How do you feel about voting independently from your partner? Would you do it?
I think it's fine. You can vote independently from your partner. I really do feel that way. And just like, I'll give you an example. Like, I was born in Alabama, so I'm a Alabama fan. I'm a Roll Tide fan, and I get offended if Alabama's playing and my husband is not cheering for Alabama. I'm gonna be like, "What you doing? This is a Bama household. You got to cheer for." But if they're playing against Ohio State because he graduated from Ohio State, it's like, for a little bit, we have fun with it. It's like, no, Alabama's gonna beat Ohio State. But so sometimes it does feel, if Alabama is playing against some random team and I see my husband cheering for the other team, it feels like betrayal. It's like, listen, your wife was born in Alabama. You're supposed to be rooting for Alabama with me. So it can get into some feelings there about just the issues. And I'm just talking about football. It does get into our value system. It gets into just differences in perspectives and how we see things. Now, for healthy relationships, you are to allow and to listen and to try to be curious and try to figure out where they're coming from and have good conversations. And even if it doesn't even need to be a debate, but if it gets into a debate, take a step back and just say, okay, let me look at your evidence. You don't have evidence. Oh, okay. Well, I have evidence. Let's look at here. Like, being able to have, is that just your opinion, or are you basing that opinion on what? Okay. My husband and I, we're two scientists. I love data. I love information. I'm just like, okay, come to me with what information you draw upon. I'm so curious about that. How'd you come to that conclusion? Let me know. So that's what I would recommend in households.
I love that. Okay, so we're gonna keep with this question because I want to know what each one of the queens think about this. But before we do that, we're gonna go to a quick commercial break.
Hey, if you're just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. I am Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood, and I am the proud producer of this show. So I hope that every day when you join us, you leave a little smarter than you came, because that's the point. Otherwise, why are you watching? So if you want to receive notices for when we go live, Fly Nubian Money goes live every single day. That's Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you don't know, now you know. All you have to do is text the word Queens, that's Queens, that's Queens, to 87948. That's 87948. That's Queens to 87948. Yes? If you want.
And if you did not get that, that's Queens to 87948. That way you can be reminded when we are live so you don't miss nothing. Today we are talking about a clip that's going viral, I guess you might say, online, where it is alleged, I should say, that Michelle Obama is pushing women to vote differently than their men. And the question is it divisive? We have listened to that video. We have watched the video. We didn't take that away. But the question is still appropriate. Is it divisive to vote differently than your partner? So before we get to asking the other queens, I wanted to point out a couple of things that Dr. Leisha did say. She talked about value systems. And I'm curious, and we'll kind of get to this, but when you're sitting and you're dating and you're getting to know somebody and you're asking them about their credit and their business and the money that they make and their family, do we talk about politics? Like, do we know who we're dating? Are our value systems aligned around our politics and how we're going to vote and things of that nature? Let's look at a couple of comments under the video, and then we're going to go to some of the queens. So this comment says, the reason why they keep pushing this divide between us, because it works. Shaking my head. Encouraging a family to be divided actually needs an answer. You got to be kidding me. Damn, this is the lowest form of begging. All right, let's see what else we have out there. If you have a husband, father, brother, etc., that is so emotional that he would vote against your best interest, then the problem lies within your family. It was already divisive, but an outsider has put the spotlight on it. Every day I learn more and more about people's minds, and to be honest, it isn't positive. Faison, the Don, says it's divisive. Effectively, what she's saying is that men tend to influence or possibly control their partner's choice. And again, we did not hear her say that in the video. The next one, and then we'll be done. If who you vote for divides your marriage, you have other issues besides who you're voting for. High Q says it's going to cause some divorces and failed relationships. Rod Checham says, why is the Democrats trying to come between a man and his wife? Nothing is above the household. Now, again, we did not necessarily hear or see that in the video because we didn't. What do you think, Constance?
It ain't reaching. I mean, I do believe, like, if I had someone who was a Republican, I can respect that. What I can't respect is a Trump supporter. It's very different. A regular Republican is very different from a Trump supporter. So we can have our different beliefs in politics. Sure. You know, you might be more conservative on things and I may be more liberal, or we might exchange certain things. But being a Trump supporter I couldn't be with someone who was a Trump supporter.
All right. That's a good point. What about you, Moya? What do you think?
Yeah, I actually agree with Constance. Like, a Trump supporter is very different than any other type of Republican, just because the views they stand harder on are very opposing to what I believe in. And so, you know, even when you look at that MSG rally, the Madison Square Garden rally, like, there's no way that we could be for the same values. Like, you know, you mentioned it in terms of going on dates. Our value system would be completely different if that's somebody that they support.
Okay. Athena, what about you? How do you feel about voting separately or differently from your partner?
We can't hear you.
You're on mute. And also, would you do it?
I would vote separately from my partner. First of all, I'm a goddess, so I'm going to do what I want to do as far as exercising my civil liberties. And any man who is trying to enter into my life needs to respect certain choices of mine, especially as a human being first, but as a woman. And I don't think it should be an issue. I've dated men that have had different political affiliations than me. I'm waiting on my absentee ballot. Florida is tripping, so I might have to take myself down to the early voting site because I'm like, they try not to mess up my ballot, but I'm very across the board. So for some things, I'm voting for some candidates, I'm voting Republican. For some candidates, I'm not. So I'm very independent. So I don't have a lot of high emotional interests or ties to politics. Now, Trump, I do not like as a person. And I can come up here and publicly say that. Do I think throw the whole Republican Party in the trash? No. But do I support a man who has taken on certain positions? No. Kamala, I know she has her issues. And listen, if she wins, the EKAs ain't going to know how to act. All right. The EKA is going to act a fool. Like, I might have to pledge after that. I don't know if she wins. But I think that it's okay. And women should feel okay with expressing their votes regardless of who they're with.
But I also wouldn't support a Republican who supports Trump, because their ideals, even if they have, you know, different policies, their ideals align with his, and they're going to vote the way he votes.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So, question: do you think this type of rhetoric, this type of conversation, do you think that it's going to affect voting dynamics in the Black families specifically, pushing this out there that way? Dr. Alicia, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to answer. I have my ballot right here. And when we go, my husband and I are going to go on Tuesday. We'll go for a run and go on Tuesday and go and vote. And I filled it out for him. So I said, here are the people that you're going to vote for. And you know what he said? He said, yeah, I'll vote for those people, because there are people we know who are running. There are people who are in my run club. There are people who are in my my boot camp who are running for local elective offices and state offices. So we sat down and had a conversation. I'm like, you got to vote for these people. You know them. And so we both rallied around what we have in common. And that's what I would encourage a lot of couples or families who are battling these issues. Try to focus on overlap, where you have a lot of overlap, because you know, Dr. Boyce is pretty flexible, and he's like, yeah, we're going to vote for these people. We're going to encourage them and put our support around all these people locally. And he has very strong views about the political candidates, and I've listened to those views and I agree with him, actually. So there's a lot of overlap that we have, but I'm a social worker, so I have to vote like a social worker. And so I'm letting him vote in the way that he wants, not letting him, but encouraging him to understanding that he votes in the way he wants, because there's so much we have in common that it overshadows, anything else that we could not have in common.
Okay. Athena, what do you think? Do you think that this type of rhetoric, this type of conversation will affect the dynamics in Black families specifically?
I think it can if you allow it. Like, I know my family, we have a family group chat. We have a family group text. And my dad was reminding us to vote and get ballots and all these things. I was like, are we 5 years old? Should we all, know how to get ballots and whatever? But I guess so. And I know if I don't vote for a certain candidate, it's going to be a problem in our household. Now, I'm not going to tell them who I'm voting for and not voting for. But I know if they knew who I'm voting for and that person happened to be not who they would want me to vote for, it would cause a problem.
Okay. What about you, Constance? Do you think that it affects Black dynamics?
You mean her rhetoric or voting differently?
The rhetoric around the rhetoric itself. Do you think
people are going to do whatever they're going to do? Whatever these politicians are, and it's great that they're stumping for the candidates, but I don't think it's going to really affect the households in any way where now we fighting because you listening to Michelle Obama. No.
All right, Moya, we'll go ahead and close it out with you, and then I'm going to add my little commentary.
Yeah, I feel like it's not, the media is projecting it as if there's some big divide between the Black men and the white men, the Black women and the Black men. But in reality, they're a lot closer in terms of how they voted in the past, 2020, 2016. So, I do feel like it's brought some positives, though, in terms of them bringing out this racial divide, because I think that pushed a lot of agenda speak that we probably wouldn't have heard before.
Right.
Yeah.
Specifically for Black men or Black people. So that's a good thing,
I think that the divisiveness is more so in who you're voting for as opposed to whether the husband or the wife is voting. I think family, I can speak for my own family. It's myself, my mom, and I have two sisters. So there's a 4-part dynamics, and 2 of us is for one candidate and 2 of us is for a different candidate. And dare I say tension, but I don't know if that's the word I want to use, but the passion that each side has for their candidate in our group text sometimes can be alarming. As like, if you weren't my family, my loved one, my sibling, somebody that I cared about, it could be a problem. But because you are, I'm just going to pipe down. I'm going to tone down. I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to reply. I'm not going to, you know what I'm saying? Because if you were somebody on the street and I had to engage you, it would be a problem. So I think that the dynamics in the Black household family community is more so based on who each individual person is voting for, opposed to whether it's the man and the woman and or the partners per se. Let's go to some stats. So women voters, a higher proportion of women across all age groups are now identifying as liberal compared to 2 decades ago, according to a Gallup survey published in February. So that's interesting. Women have backed Democrats by a significant margin in multiple cycles now. In 2020, 55% of women voted for Biden, 44% voted for Trump. In 2016, 54% of women voted for Hillary Clinton, 39% voted for Trump. So this is not even one of our questions. But
are these white women or they're just everybody?
It didn't say, because that would be interesting. But that goes to my question: Do women move or push or influence the election when you see these types of numbers and they're pushed? So I would say, this is my 2 cents. I'm not saying who I'm voting for, who I'm not voting for, even though we know who I'm voting for. One of the things that I don't like about the election right now is that I feel like there's a lot of pandering, right? But there's not pandering to the wide masses of people. There's a lot of pandering to us specifically. So when you ask that question, is it Black women or white women? I think that that's important. But overall, do women have influence when it comes to the election? Because when you think about, allegedly, if Michelle was to say, vote differently from your husband, if she allegedly was to say that, the draw would be that women are the ones who call an election by based on who we vote for. We know who a white male is most likely going to vote for. So we have to then push to women, Black women, everybody else to try to sway it. What do you think, Dr. Alicia? Do you think that women's votes, I won't say call the vote or call the election, but how much power do we have?
Well, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Let's hope that happens.
Yeah.
The thing is that these studies are really interesting because we know that people who are more left leaning have higher scores on compassion and empathy. So that makes sense. I think a lot of women are socialized to some extent, but are also able, because they're able to connect. Society encourages connection to feelings, which is very important for everybody to do, but that's gender, seen as a gender thing. So compassion and empathy for those left leaning, those scores are really high compared to those who are more right leaning. So that makes sense that there would be this gender divide. Number two, I just want to say, I saw some comment, men who adhere to male ideology, connected with dominance, that they have to dominate over in a relationship, they have very unhealthy marriages, very unhealthy, very unhappy spouses. So men who adhere to that, particularly among women with a high level of education and social status and economic status. So these male dominant ideology, it doesn't work with educated women who are very successful in their career. So I just want to bring that out in terms of gender differences. These are like facts here. So
can I just say to Brian Shanklin, shut the hell up. I think you're a troll because this is the guy that was on here yesterday talking about he was talking about Corey Holcomb was right. Anyway, he's a troll and he probably has a small penis. So go ahead and go to commercial.
Somebody said Brian is lying. Oh, lying Brian. All right. So we're going to be right back. We're going to take a small commercial break and we're going to come back and continue this conversation.
You want to grow your money and not blow your money, as Constance says, check us out at flynubianmoney.com. There's all kinds of resources, programs, videos, resources. In 2024, there's no reason to be broke when there's information all around us. So get your money right. flynubianmoney.com.
Like, I feel like you have to come back and hit you with one of these just because that's how we left it. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So did anybody want to add anything to that last question before I move on to this next question?
No, I do believe women are more evolved. When you look at women in terms of, like Dr. Alicia said, in terms of, our personal development, we're the ones that are always into self-improvement. Empathy, we're the ones that are showing up at church. So I do agree with that. And I was reminded of a white lady who used to work for me. And she used to be very liberal until the last election cycle. And I thought it was very funny. No, it was 2016, I believe. She may be watching this, but it was funny because it wasn't funny because she was sitting there and she said, well, the Muslims need to go back to Muslim, right? And she had taken on this whole different perspective. And I think it was exacerbated by Trump and then her husband. Like they really influenced her and kind of changed her mindset. And for her to be so comfortable in saying that to me, right, as a Black woman, like you're talking about another, because they've divided us so to where you think you can come to me and talk about somebody else. And I remember when I was, 5 or 6 years old, and my auntie, we were doing a race joke, like, and there was a white guy, a Black guy, and my auntie checked us, and she said, these people used to say these same jokes about Black people, and if they will sit up there and laugh with you about it, then they will laugh at you behind your back. So never participate in things where people are talking about other people, because these are the same people who don't like your Black ass either. And so we need to understand the rhetoric, and when people are talking about the immigrants behind closed, they're saying immigrants, these are trigger words to get you to rally behind them, but behind closed doors they talking about your Black ass too.
The whole truth, none but the truth. Okay, so if you are just tuning in, we are having a conversation around this viral meme speech that Michelle Obama did, where it is alleged that she is pushing women to vote differently than their men. We're going to roll the video so that you can see it for yourself.
Before you cast your votes, ask yourselves, What side of history do you want to be on? That there are a lot of angry, disillusioned people out there upset with the slow pace of change. And I get it. It is reasonable to be frustrated. We all know we have a lot more work to do in this country. But to anyone out there thinking about sitting out this election or voting for Donald Trump or a third-party candidate in protest because you're fed up, let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. So, are you as men prepared to look into the eyes of the women and children you love and tell them that you supported this assault on our safety? And to the women listening, we have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us.
So I ask you in the chat, what did you hear? Did you hear her say vote differently or separately from your partner, as it's being suggested? I think that we have to have conscious accountability of what the media is perpetrating and putting out there, and we have to report on it with integrity. We have to listen to these sound bites, listen to these sound clips for ourselves. Something that Dr. Alicia said before. If you're just tuning in, you might not have heard her said that. So Dr. Alicia, I'm going to go back to you. What are your thoughts and emotions or feelings or ideas when you hear this or you see this type of rhetoric online?
I think it's irresponsible, honestly, to, promote this rhetoric. It's so important to take a step back and to look at things on all different levels, right? And to see the limitations of politics. One of the first things that Barack Obama said when he was first elected in office is his acceptance speech in Chicago. He mentioned, basically his speech was, don't look for me to change things. You guys need to be the one to change things. Like, he was trying to get people rally behind. That was kind of what I suspected. Now, there were lots of things that he did politically that I don't agree with. There's a lot that he did that I absolutely agree with. So I think that here they are, the Obama family, to criticize them a little bit. Here they are trying to use these tactics to get people to vote. So I understand she's doing her job to help throw her support behind the Democratic Party. That's what she's supposed to do. She's trying to get people to adhere to what they consider civic duty, to go and give their opinion and vote. Now, there's layers to it, because there's some people think that there's controls of beyond the presidency that's really in control. I mean, we could go down that rabbit hole too. Right. But to stick to the topic of, y'all, don't let social media place a division where there is none. Like, we are closely, Black families, the ones I talk to and the ones that I know, are really together on so many other things. Like, our struggle is what connects all of us at the hip. Like, even with Caribbean Black people, we're connected to the hip. Africans, we're connected at the hip because of the systems of white supremacy, not only in this country, but all over the world. So we need to see things in perspective and not let this division I think it's.
So Dr. Lisa, so can people stop calling me a tether now? Can people stop calling me a tether now? I mean, how long I got to live here?
I consider connected at the hip because the history is so similar. And so I instead of looking at this other person as an other, we have to look at what's common among all of us. And we have to really direct our attention to who the real problem is and what the real systems that really control what happens. Yes, Black people unite. And I think that we have to just see it and not let division take its course. And I'm seeing too much of this. Now, I don't know if these people are bots. I kind of wonder, like Boyce and I were having a good conversation about, he's like, look at these comments. I'm like, there's no way in 5 seconds, all these negative comments can be posted up. These are not real people. We're going to the accounts. We're like, these are bots. So you got to understand that this frenzy is arbitrary. Like, unless politics is something so important to you where you just live and die on who's the president of the United States, I can see that. But I don't know. I just think that we need to take a step back and see things in perspective.
All right, so we're going to go to the comments now. So maybe your comment will come up. Who knows? Let's see what happens. So President 48th United States at 1032 said, learn to leave feelings out of American politics and election systems. Only vote with a business transaction mindset and move in silence when done with the okay. What are your thoughts on that, Constance? Before you answer, I'm going to say what mine is, and then you might be able to piggyback on it. And that is, the unfortunate thing is we all still have different feelings, and we also have different ideas and concepts of what is right and what is a business transaction. So although this is, to me, a great sentiment, I still think sometimes we have to put community first. But what do you think?
Bullshit. And the reason why he's saying this is because he's coming from a perspective of a Republican perspective that this is all just business. The United States is a business and we're running a business, but you want a failed businessman to quote unquote run this business. You want to take the morals out of the business. You want to take the humanity out of the business. You know, there's a very, very different, very different talk, the way the Republicans and the way that Trump speaks versus Kamala speaks. He speaks from a very negative perspective. This country's going to shit. They're all coming to take your jobs. Everything's going to hell. If you don't, that's how he is. That he's talking about divide. You're talking about Michelle Obama because she said, vote how you want, sis. Is causing a divide amongst your household. But this man is really inciting riots. And he's saying this country is going to hell. And he's making up stuff about Black people eating dogs and cats and shit. And then you got Kamala on the other hand saying, hey, listen, let's all come together. United we stand, divided we fall. So y'all gonna just throw all that out. And then you're going to just you're going to say, oh, we just need to run this business like a business from a failed businessman. I think what's happening is a lot of these Black men are taking the talking points of white supremacy, right? White supremacists, and they are owning it and they're running with it. And you guys are being fooled, brothers, if you think that this man is going to do anything for your Black ass besides put your ass in jail.
Yeah.
All right.
I do want to add to that, though, because let's say we looked at it from his perspective, because I feel like a lot of these people are looking at it with feelings. Like, remove the Donald Trump that you saw from The Apprentice, the guy that would go in and say you're fired and you thought it was funny, or the guy that makes jokes and it makes you feel good and you're like, he can relate to me. Look at, he put his mugshot on a shirt that said never surrender. Like, I feel like those things, that's the feeling that's emoting that people are connecting to. If you looked at this as a business transaction and looked at what are the actual value points? Okay, $3,600 for a tax credit increase, that helps my family. Looking at the fact that if we keep affordable, the ACA, Affordable Care Act, and the fact that diabetes now, the insulin is now $35, they've capped it. If we seriously looked at it in terms of how it helps your family and looked at it only as transactional, and you would see that it better aligns with what your family needs and remove your feelings from it.
All right. So we're going to go to another comment from Lawrence Lamar. I'm going to throw this one to you, Athena. There's 2 comments that I'm going to read. The first one's at 10:28 a.m. on my side here in Arizona. It says, women will vote for Democrats no matter what. They don't look at policies, but they do vote feelings and vibes. Feelings don't work when you got to defend the country from foreign invaders. And then he followed it up at 10:31 with, I love our Black women, but they no longer care about family. They're smart, make money, but it's only for themselves, never to connect the Black family. What do you think about that, Athena?
Lawrence, I'm gonna need you to put a picture up so I can verify that you are a Black man saying these things. But my first reaction is like, which Black woman hurt you? Because this is so far from the truth. I do think Black women care a lot about family. A lot of us are mothers, some of us doing it by ourselves to raise children that some of you guys won't take responsibility for. So I don't think that Black women are voting not considering family dynamics and family structure. If anything, they're the ones who more so than any gender right now, unfortunately, holding up and leading families. What was the other? Can you put the comment back up so I can address the other part of it? Lamar. Oh, and also to say that we are uninformed. If I was correct, right, isn't Black women the most educated by race and gender? And so that means that we have the ability, our literacy rates, our reading rates, our professional careers. I think Black women are very much interested in policies and also are voting for their best interests. If you're asking a block of women now, just off of what the other party has coming down the line, I'm not saying who I'm voting for. If you as a woman have to think about your reproductive rights, have to think about what your children is going to have access to as far as education is concerned, if you have to think about what your ability or power structures and dynamics within a patriarchal society and system, then they have no choice but to vote within their best interest. It's stupid to do so. So just because someone is not necessarily voting the way you want them to vote does not make them foolish or ignorant for choosing to do so. I would be stupid to think that everyone is going to vote based off the interests that I care about. I expect everyone to vote on the interests that they care about. And to diminish the intellectual capacity and ability of the Black women, I think that is very shameful of you. And I pray for you and I hope better for you.
All right. We're going to go to a quick commercial and then we're going to come back and continue with the commentary from you guys in the chat.
Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify. Yes. We are on Spotify. So if you can't watch us, you can listen to us. All you have to do is search Fly Nubian Money and we will appear. All of our episodes. Make sure that you leave a 5-star rating and reviews so other people that come along and are looking for a good show to watch, they'll follow us too. If you are interested in being on Fly Nubian Money, sorry, I don't have any spaces. I'm just playing. If you are interested in being a queen or a king on Fly Nubian Money for the day, please reach out to me. I'm at info@realvirtual.net. That's info@realvirtual.net. Also, if you need help with your business, go ahead and send me an email for that too. Okay. I've said enough. Now back to the show.
All right. So if you're just tuning in, we are talking about, hold on, before I get to that, text Queens to 87948. Make sure you do that. Don't play games, okay? You want to be involved in these conversations. We want to hear from you, and we want you to tune in so that we can do that. So today we're talking about the alleged quote by Michelle Obama to push women to vote differently than their men. And the conversation is around, is it divisive? We are not necessarily talking about whether or not we watched the video. We didn't necessarily hear her say it, but the conversation and or the question is still valid as we're going into a very heated election season where every single vote matters. Should a partner push their view or influence their significant other to vote a particular way based on what they believe and or think? And so I forget, Lawrence Lamar, that was the question we were initially just talking about. And his response was, I'm a married man of 26 years and my wife has 3 degrees, but we don't agree with Kamala Harris policies. Whenever I hear somebody say that, we don't agree with Kamala Harris's policies, then I immediately go to, so that means you agree with Trump's?
Right.
So,
What policies?
His concept of a policy. He got the concept, right? Don't you got the concept of the policy?
does he have the concept of a policy?
Yeah, he said that's what he said at the last debate. I got a concept of a policy.
Listen,
Y'all agree
After
with
9
this
years.
concept?
Let me jump in. I gotta say something about Donald Trump. Does he really want to win this election? I feel
That's
like
what I was thinking yesterday. I was like, he cannot want to
he
win.
is saying and doing everything that someone would do if they want to throw the election.
No, but I just think we're being punked because it shows how stupid these followers are.
that's the thing.
I don't even blame him. I blame the people who believe him. That's
the fact
crazy.
that you can push that rhetoric, say anything, act like a clown, look like a clown,
Look like a clown.
and
Did you
people
see
be
him
like,
yesterday?
yeah, I'm with you.
Yesterday was even more orange. Like it's a freak show. It's a sideshow, and y'all out here really like going with it.
You think it's an experiment? They're experimenting with us.
They gotta be experimenting on us
How
because this
far
cannot
can
be
I
real life.
go? I'm just gonna speak off the cuff. I'm not even gonna have no plan.
Right. I got a concept of a plan.
It's like everything he says is so awful. This really is an election of good versus evil, like for real. Like everything he says is like
Seriously.
unbelievable.
And I could agree with Dr. Frazier because at the All Black National Conference, they were on the panel and they were saying, well, I know you guys are voting. You're saying you're voting for the lesser of two evils. And Dr. Frazier said, no, well, she's not evil. She doesn't have, she's not saying anything evil. She's not putting out any evil plans. She's trying to unite the country. This man is truly talking evil. It's a difference. It's not the lesser of two evils. It's really not.
He's being honest. That's the thing. When I'm listening to people talk about Donald Trump versus Kamala, and they start talking about policy, they start talking about all these things, but they don't talk about Black people. They don't talk about Black community. They don't talk about what's going to happen when Trump gets into office. And we're literally setting ourselves up for whatever happens. Like let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
First, I want to say, Brian Shanklin, get your Uncle Ruckus ass up off of here talking that silly ass shit. But go ahead.
The reality is the world is the world. I'm not going to say the world is not. Let's say is the world and or Black people. Let's talk about Black men. Are Black men ready for a Black woman president? They don't like the Black woman in their household. So how do you think they feel about having a Black woman at the helm of the whole United States? Is it really a problem with her policy, or is it a problem with the fact that she's a Black woman? Anybody?
I don't think it's either. I think that it's being magnified, and just like you guys said earlier, I do think it's bots. I think there are more of us that are actually working together. Some of the talking heads that are doing all of the talk against Kamala, I don't know if they're paid or what, but what I don't like to see on for a lot of these pundits is they're not holding Trump to the same standard they're holding Kamala to. They're not questioning him. Everything she does, they have something to say about it. They're saying, well, she ain't doing this for Black people and she ain't did that, but they're not holding him to the same standard. That's what I have a problem with. But to answer your question, I don't really believe that. I believe that more Black men are. And I just think that it's being, number one, there's bots. Two, is being magnified. Remember how the Russians took over the election last time and they caused all that divisiveness? I think it's the same thing.
Okay. Anybody else? Moya, you want to chime in on that?
One thing I do believe, and I've heard this before, what Brian Shanklin just put in there in terms of the religious aspect and whether they're pushing the gay agenda and that's what they're standing up for or standing against. I think one thing that we have to really keep in mind here is that their goal is to control. And so when they remove our rights in terms of our voting rights, they're practicing voter suppression. Like as they remove these, and also the nationwide in terms of abortion ban, we're going to be starting from a way lower platitude in part to attempt to get those back before we even start talking about gay rights and gay access to this gay. So we have to really look at what's really on the agenda and what they have in store for us, because they do have a plan. What this whole Project 2025 that they're attempting to separate themselves from, it's called the Mandate for Leadership, which is what the Heritage Foundation puts out every presidential cycle. 2016, Donald Trump put 60% of what they already had in their mandate for leadership. So he's done this before. Ronald Reagan, 2/3 of it. So this is something that they do. It's just that in this case, they want to separate themselves from the policies that they have in place for us. So I think that it's really important that we truly look at what's in store here. And it's not about these rights that they're pushing.
And Moya, think about what he even did with the Supreme Court. Now he has immunity as a president. Just look at the power that he's trying to put. Look at the chess pieces. Like, don't y'all see that this man is really trying to be a dictator in this country? He's trying to form a dictatorship. So, and y'all really still follow him because y'all don't want people to have abortions, like for real, and y'all don't like gay people. Come on, now there's bigger issues than those two things. There really are.
Way bigger.
You know, as I was listening to Moya, and we're talking about voting off of emotion and voting, when you think about how these Black Trumpers they're doing the same thing. I don't want to vote for her. She ain't Black. She Indian. So you're not gonna vote for her because of her race? Like, y'all are emotional voters too. You're
say the ignorant
picking everything about this woman apart to find reasons not to vote for her. not necessarily that you want to vote for Trump, but you just don't want to vote for her. Like you too are a part of the problem. Okay. Let's go to Joe's comment. Joe Corley, what up, King? We miss you on the panel today. How do we feel about Black men working overtime to criticize and diminish Kamala Harris? Athena, you want to start us off?
Yes, because this actually goes to a point I was going to say is I don't remember Obama getting this level of scrutiny when he was running. Like, and if memory serves correct, I mean, Obama's mom is not Black, right? Right. Okay. So why Kamala getting so much hate? Why is she receiving so much criticism? Why Black men finding it so hard to fully come behind this woman? Is there some like misogynoir behind this? Like, I really have to question, is it because I think it's because she's a woman. I think a lot of people have a hard time, envisioning a woman in that seat or having that high of an office in demand, especially men. I think it's causing them to face some of them, not all of them now, because some of them are good and very supportive. I won't pathologize all Black men, but I think it's causing an issue with now all of a sudden, she may not be as qualified and her feelings and this and the third. But I know Kamala, she's more qualified than Trump. She has been in the political system for how many years? So Trump didn't really have anything except for money and audacity. So I don't know what kind of qualifications we're necessarily looking for. Now, if you're saying you don't want to vote for her because she supports certain issues that you can get behind, I can accept that. But I think both men and women have issues with a woman sitting in that seat. And as we saw with Trump's original election, a lot of white women casted the vote to support him in his seat. And I have friends that are women of different ethnicities. And I have to say, I was like, I don't think Kamala have it in the bag like that, because I know they're not voting for her. So, it's very interesting to me. But I think her race and her presidential push is holding a mirror up to our community to address certain underlying issues that we need to talk about.
Yeah, I think to your point, I know you kept saying a woman, and I think that is valid, but I also think it's a Black woman. A woman at the helm, allegedly the top seat in the United States, right? Can you imagine having to come home to your wife, to your woman? And I think that men think like that. Like, we cannot have a woman at that level, at that position. The other thing we talked about was the Obama thing, right? When I listen to people talk about her not being Black, this is what I have heard. This is what has been regurgitated, is that her dad is Jamaican. That's not American. So she's Black, but she's not African American. So
Obama too.
That's crazy. Like,
so nationalities, race, nationality, and ethnicity are all different categories, right?
Yeah, and that's how ignorant people are.
Did y'all go to school to understand the different classifications?
No, they didn't. No, they stupid.
So she's Black, but she's not African American, is what they said. They said that she doesn't have the same life experience.
She was born. I mean, her parent. She was born in America, right?
She was born in America.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I was just wondering. Common sense.
Rachel says, "Don't try to trick us. Being Jamaican does not automatically mean you're Black. Like, being American doesn't mean you're white."
They didn't go through the slave trade like we did. Like, they didn't go through the same stuff. Shut your ass up. Y'all be sounding so dumb.
I'm also curious, when they say she's not Black, what that means. Like, she grew up in Oakland in the 60s and 70s. Like, how much Blacker can her experience get? Especially after going to Howard and pledging AKA. Like, what does a Black experience in being Black truly mean?
No, these men they're afraid of women leadership. And it's sad because, you would think that Black men would rally behind our people more so. But the fact that we see I'm not even going to acknowledge them because I think they're bots. I think STL Bree, the one he talking ignorant ass shit to, Uncle Ruckus, Nikki, Uncle Ruckus, the other one, all y'all Uncle Ruckus people in the comments. I don't even believe you guys are real people. I believe that you guys are bots.
And it's not even that. The thing that gets me the most, I'm okay with you voting who you want to vote for from a perspective of policy and interests. I just do not support and like the fact that we dog our own out. Nobody in the history of time have we gone back and talking about what is your nationality, what is your race? We only do it to Black people. We tear down. We always go in and tear our own down. You not African American Black, you're Jamaican Black, so you're not Black enough. Like, why do we do that? Like, why, we only attack ours. We ain't over there asking Trump about his lineage, where he came from, how his father bogarted and stole, but we ain't talking about the fact that he didn't go into the military. We are not tearing him down in any kind of a way, the way that we do somebody who looks like us, whether they are African, or Jamaican, or Puerto Rican, whatever lineage comes from Africa, right? African diaspora. We only do that to us. That's heartbreaking to know that Black people would rather tear down and join white supremacists, clan views, instead of support someone that looks like ourselves.
Yeah.
As a Black immigrant of this country, it has always been very discouraging, as especially someone who has done so much work to understand Black history as a whole before slavery and to come together. I do think there's a conversation that needs to be had. I think both sides, African Americans and immigrant Black people, both have this tension that I just very much see as unnecessary. I shouldn't have to defend my contribution or my family contribution to this country as a productive member of society. And I think that I don't know what the solution for that is, but we are trying to be like crabs in a barrel, infighting when we have bigger fish to fry. And I don't understand why this is an issue. I shouldn't have to be called a tether, or I'm not ADOS, or I'm not FBA, or I'm not this, that, and the third, when I know more about Black history than most people that even tune into on the show. Right.
That part.
So
I just information from stuff like this. Like you're just listening to sound bites, done no research, don't know anything.
Right there.
Said, hold on one second. I voted for Kamala Harris, but there's nothing wrong about questioning her background. We don't have to blindly accept everything that is told to us. That is absolutely true, and do it on both sides. So we don't have to believe everything that's told to us about Kamala. We also don't have to do it about Trump. So, like, do your research for yourself. So that being said, we're going to go around the room so that everybody can get their final thought in around the subject, and also tell you where you can find them so that you can support them individually. We'll go ahead and start with Dr. Alicia.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, Kamala Harris, I think, is being unjustifiably scrutinized. As a Black woman, I connect with that scrutiny because I experience that every day. So I'm seeing in the response to Kamala Harris is a reflection of some of the responses to me in leadership positions and in some of my some of the roles that I've played. So I'm kind of like empathizing a lot with what she has had to battle. Now, listen, African countries have elected female presidents and everything went great. Latin American countries have elected female presidents. I think that it's time for us to get on that bandwagon. And I think that I don't think it is going to be so awful for us to do this. Now, if you want a Black woman as your therapist, go to Coaching with Dr. Alicia and fill out one of my forms for individual or couples counseling. And thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Alicia. Moya, we'll go ahead with you.
Yes. So I believe that it's important to vote with your values. You have to vote for what really speaks to you and what you want to see as progress. And I think that's the most important part about it. You can find me on Instagram at moya.business.
Awesome. We are going to go to the goddess next. I can't even call you Miss Black Hollywood because we have one, but go ahead, goddess.
Listen, regardless of what happens on election day and who is sitting on that seat, honey, you need to make sure that you and your situation are great, okay? Because, you know, these politics are politicking anyway, right? So what Michelle Obama says to help women, to encourage them to think for themselves and to vote for themselves, we should all be for that from a human race perspective. But if you want to make sure that you are straight, no matter who is sitting in that seat, you can find me and my information at wewealthwomen.com. Follow me at wewealthwomen and listen to the We Wealth Women podcast.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, Ms. Constance Carter, what are your final thoughts?
I think if Kamala Harris was a white man with all of the credentials that she has, there will be no way that this race will be even remotely close. I mean, they're just two different candidates, and she just far supersedes him. The problem I have, and I don't want to believe it for our Black men. I really don't, because I love y'all so much. But the problem I have is that Black men are eating this white supremacist rhetoric, and I can't believe we doing it. But then y'all did get, y'all did start gangbanging. Y'all did get caught up in the crack epidemic. I mean, y'all, you guys did kind of do that too. So perhaps the white man can still brainwash you to making sure that you promote his white supremacist agenda. That's what it sounds like for you black men that are voting for Donald Trump. So I hate to see that, but that's exactly what's going on. But where can you find me? Everywhere. I am Constance Carter.
I love it. Okay, so final thoughts, and then I will definitely make sure that you guys know where you can find us before we get out of here. I'm going to go ahead and speak for Joe Corley, because he's not here. He's our king that's normally on here. And I'm giving his final thoughts, even though he's not here. He said, question her background. Yes, being blatantly dishonest while you do it is a problem. She is not perfect, but hold her to the same standard you hold anyone else. Black Lexicon said, I love you ladies. That didn't hurt so bad to say. So my final thought is, I love you. And I would venture to say that everybody on this panel loves you, loves Black people, loves Black men, loves Black women. We're for the community. We are B1. And I think that is the sentiment that we always have to lead with. We can love each other. We can be B1, and we can still have different ideas and perspectives as long as we do them with integrity and with respect, which I believe that we do here. We are not monolithic. We're not always going to agree on the same things. But I think that is some of the area where we need to focus on. What does unity look like for us? How do we find alignment, if at all possible? How can we have different views about things and communicate these things and not be offensive? This election, I would say election since Obama has brought out the worst in people. Now that it is a possibility that a Black person, man or woman, can have the #1 seat in the United States and has done it, it brings out something that's really ugly in the United States. So we as a community have to make sure that we keep the beauty between us, between Black men and Black women, between communities, between our children. African, whether it be African American, Jamaican, Haitian, we're Black. We come from the African diaspora. We got dropped off at different places along the slave ships dropped us off at different locations, but we are the same. We are one. We bleed the same. We look the same. We have to show up and support each other. Whether it's through this election or not, that's your call, your choice and decision. But we do have to make sure that we focus on unity in our community. And that's where I will leave it. If you have had a good time with us today, you know what I'm saying? Make sure that you tune in every Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. You can also catch us on Spotify. You can look up Fly Nubian Money. Okay, I am Dr. Lene Javette. Thank you so much for listening. Somebody else was like, don't forget to tell us where we can find you. You can find me online at I am Dr. Lene Javette. Exactly. I just want to make sure that I don't have anything else I'm supposed to say before I can close out the thing. I do not. Okay, perfect. Text the word Queens to 87948. Text the word Queens to 87948. As always, we do love you and we appreciate you coming through, showing up. If you want to know where to get your money right, you can go to flynubianmoney.com. Again, that's flynubianmoney.com. Make sure you come back tomorrow and tune in. We appreciate you showing up. We appreciate your dialogue. We appreciate knowing what you think. So make sure you come back tomorrow. And as always, continue to be bold, be Black, and be one. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Brian, oh my God.